Hello everyone, welcome to LSI F1 World Championship. We're today for the Japanese Grand Prix, round 10 of 14, already into the double digits. Let's get it. It is Charlie on top, Sir Max on the championship leader in P2 by 29 points. By the way, Charlie needs to try and find something to really make a difference in this race. Currently, the faster out of the two, and looking at the statistics, quite possibly the fastest car around this circuit this weekend, going into the weekend. How will that translate in the actual race, though? We will find out, of course, in a few moments' time. We've got just under 4 minutes on the clock remaining. Tom will be making his way back to the pit lane, ready to go up for one final time if they can make it through. Verth retires. They will finish their session. That will be it for them. We've got Frantic back on track once again, this time in a Haas car, and we have Pursoon for the first time in a long time, racing in the Alpine. Great to see them, since I believe it was the Hungarian Grand Prix back last season. No, it was the British Grand Prix, where the intermediate conditions really put a tricky race on for Pursoon, with a bit of a visual bug, which made it incredibly difficult to see what was going on. That being said, they did win the race before that, which was the Hungarian Grand Prix, so they were definitely in some good form back in those months. But now we're here, we're ready to go. I do know that they do have an injury, so hopefully they can get through as much of this race as they can, but if they do have to stop, that could be possibly why. So we'll be hoping they can do what they can here in qualifying. We'll see how it goes. But we've got Frantic going into turn one, flat out. As you leave the first apex, you go into the second apex, you put the brakes on, you release the brakes, you go down to fourth or fifth, you go up to sixth. Are they going to go back down to fifth? They do so. And then through the S's, the lefts and the rights, a dab of brakes through this, the right-hander, and then up through Dunlop. You will be flat out, keeping the wheel slightly wide if you can to try and maximize the track distance. Sometimes not quite so simple. Flat out for the first Egner, into the second one, fourth gear on the throttle, trying to stay away from the curb too much. A little bit of riding can be nice. Into the hairpin, down into second gear for some, but staying in third gear for Frantic, and then coming to Spoon Curve on its way very, very shortly. Will then go down the very long straight, but here we go, just before the 50 meter, or just after the 50 meter board. You want to start to slow down, shift down those gears to allow you to get that speed as you do go down this straight, to try and maximize it. It's a long way to go, so you do need to make sure that you nail that exit. We'll go down through to 130R, and we'll see what Frantic can do here into the final chicane, the Casio triangle, braking around about 100 meters, getting it turned in nicely over the curbs on the exit, not quite using the exit curb. That's absolutely fine. They get the traction down, they get the DRS. It's a P3, a 27.9, away behind Sir Maxon, but still a very good improvement and just ahead of Igor for now. We've got Pursoon, who goes to P5 after not racing too much in this game. That's a pretty good job. We'll see who is going to be setting their lap next, and it looks like it is going to be your championship leader, Sir Maxon, the reigning F1.5 EU champion, trying to do the back-to-back. Charlie, 29 points behind us, the only one that can really make a difference in this championship, with, of course, Zingy not participating in the remainder of the championship, unfortunately, and Devon Young with 88 points. That would be a very difficult feat for him to bring that back. Sir Maxon has got the high ground in the championship, but not quite in qualifying so far. Smoothly running through the first sector. Bit of a correction, but nothing that would have really caused any problems. And now they don't ride over the grass like Frantic did on the left-hand side. They're going to keep it smooth for the first and on the exit of the second deck. They're not quite going to the left-hand side onto the grass, but keeping it away from it, still maximizing the track distance. Into second gear they go, then up to third as they get on the traction. I say that, they actually probably used a lot of the throttle input in second gear. It seemed to work there for Sir Maxon quite nicely. Downshift once, a downshift twice, but no invalidation, and it will be their qualifying lap over. A loss of a front wing, and their day is done for now. Charlie is looking to defend their current pole time, and they're going to have a very, very good chance of doing so, as they are so far ahead of everyone else, and they are just matching their current lap time as well. They go purple in that middle sector, and they're going to try and find a little bit more time in the final few corners. They do know that they don't need to worry too much. DRS across the line, and it's going to be not an improvement, but still holding on to pole position right now. Egapro will get to P3, a 0.8 just ahead of Frantic. It's going to be Tom in P6. They cross the line with an invalidated lap time. That is qualifying over. That is Charlie on pole position for the Japanese Grand Prix. Is also a Polish 1-2. Lovely stuff in qualifying already done. 2 tenths ahead almost was Charlie from P2, and then 7 tenths from the rest. Absolutely incredible times there from the top two. Very well done indeed to the championship hunter. Let's see if they can hunt down those points in the race in just a few moments' time. Ready? Hold. Go! Who's going to get it into turn one? It's St. Maxwell on the inside line, but the traction is not there. Frantic's to the inside. It's 3 wide into turn two, but it's Eagle who's going to get ahead just momentarily, as it's the Ferrari trying to muscle their way back into P2. Eagle's not having any of it, though. It will eventually go the Polish driver's way, but no! Into the wall goes St. Maxon as they lose the car into the fourth turn, and it's going to be a really disastrous moment right there. Oh, I do not know what to say, but that's damage, and that's going to be a pit stop. That's going to be St. Maxon down the order by quite a bit. They could possibly stay out with that wing and try and hope that something comes back later on, but now Charlie is an 8/10 gap to Egapro, and then it's Frantic in P3, Pursoon in P4, Tom, Verth, Jericho, and it is of course St. Maxon at the back of the pack. They've come back from the rear of the grid to win races on multiple occasions, however, so it's not over until it's over. I'm sure they're going to be remembering that. It's happened countless times, because right now, if they were to give up, then they would be losing quite possibly a massive amount of points. They cannot afford to give up in this race. Charlie leads the way 1 second now, trying to push at this point, trying to use their battery to see if they have an opportunity to break away from the rest of the pack. Eagles giving it their absolute all and is doing a decent job, but there's only one DRS straight at this circuit, and it's the start-finish straight right here. We'll get that at the next part of the lap, or the next lap, sorry. But other than that, it's all about pure pace, and Igor's got to really dig deep and find something here. Otherwise, it's going to be quite possibly a runaway moment here for Charlie. We've got hards for Jericho Willis and for Samaxon. Samaxon going into the pit lane immediately already, so that's an interesting one. I did not realise Samaxon had been on the hards. That's where they started. That's quite possibly why they had the loss of traction, because it's so difficult to start a race at Japan on a set of hard tyres. They are incredibly cold. I remember practicing for the race, and I had to make sure that I knew what I was doing on my outlaps after making pit stops, and it just shows how difficult it is. Now, unfortunately for Samaxon, that means that their safe tyre, if they were to have a lap 1 instant, is now gone, and they have to go on the more aggressive tyre, which is the medium compound. It's a difficult situation. It's the situation that they're in, and it's the one that they have to deal with. It's now Eager Pro 4 tenths behind Charlie, who's flying at the moment. They've got Frantic for pressure right behind, and Frantic's going to be able to find some DRS, I'm sure. But are they going to try and go for a move into the Casio Triangle, or are they going to wait for that start-finish straight? It would make sense to wait for the start-finish straight, and they will do so. It's Bassoon pushing Frantic through the corners. It's DRS now for the Haas driver, and they will be able to get through as Eagle's losing the car on the rear end like there's no tomorrow. Bassoon's going to try and come through as well. Well, they're definitely going to get P3, but are they going to go for P2? That's the question. They stick their nose to the inside line. They're going to give it their all, and they do so. A lovely, lovely move spotted, an opportunity taken, and Frantic was not willing to fight that one too hard by the time he realised Bassoon was on that inside line. But that's ballsy from the Belgian driver. That could have gone horribly wrong very, very easily. A lot of drivers try that, including myself, and hook ourselves on the right-hand side inside curb, and it just throws you around. In the F1 24 game, you can get on with it quite nicely, but it's still quite difficult. That's a mistake there for Bassoon on the exit of the second Degner into the tunnel section. It's an attempt there from Igor, who had a go on the exit of the second Degner into the hairpin, but it didn't quite work out. I don't know if there was contact, but there was definitely a loss of traction, maybe the front end from the Aston Martin driver, and they couldn't find a way through. They're trying to have a go and see if they can get back through, and then they'll get into the DRS of Bassoon, but it's not quite so simple. 2.3 seconds now. Bassoon is trying their best. They've come back to LSI and are immediately running in the front too, which is brilliant to see. The former F1.5 EU champion, Eager Pro, was hoping that they'd be able to have a go, but with that overtake that didn't quite work out on Frantic, a lap ago. Well, it's now going to happen, surely. Frantic disconnects during the middle of the session. It's going to be Jericho Willis as well disconnecting. All of a sudden, they'll be able to get back into this lobby, but that's incredibly infuriating to see that happen right there. Eager Pro will get that DRS, and they'll get a nice run to catch up to Bassoon, so they will be very lucky in that being the case. Maybe Tom won't be so lucky, because now they've got 8 tenths to try and catch. I say that. They should be good to go. Frantic, incredibly frustrating, and Jericho Willis with that alternate strategy. This is exactly what they don't want. That's incredibly frustrating. Hopefully they can get back into the lobby as soon as possible. I don't know if it's an internet problem or a game crash. It is what it is for now. Frantic rejoins the session. Charlie, 2.4 seconds is still the gap at the moment. Trying to extend it further. Time penalties can be a factor around this circuit as well. It can be tricky if you're pushing. If you're not pushing, it can be quite simple. That being said, when the tyres do get worn, it can be very tricky as well. So if you're pushing, the tyres are worn, you're going to have a pretty hard time. And we do have to watch out for that later on into the stints and, of course, into the final laps of the races. Other than that, shouldn't be too hard to stay away from a few track limits. There are only a few places that you can actually extend. And we're going to get Igor going to the inside and into the lead of the Japanese, not the Japanese Grand Prix, of the P2 train for the Japanese Grand Prix. And he's now 2.3 seconds behind Charlie. They've managed to gain about a tenth by doing that, trying to find everything they can. But currently, that Racing Bull is incredibly fast. Eager Pro using this momentum through the S section to gain an extra 10th as well. So these guys are working quite nicely to try and find the race leader. That is possibly a track limit extension there for Pursoon. Could that be the second one of the evening? If you don't race too often in the game, then that could be something that you have to be aware of that could happen. And unfortunately for Pursoon, they are finding that out. They would have probably known it anyway, and they will be accepting it. Tom, 1.3 seconds behind Pursoon at the moment. Igor and the Alpine are working well, very, very nicely. And it's actually working probably a little bit too well for Tom Robb, who's trying to hold on, but it's not quite so simple. Slipstream is available there for the Alpine. That's another connection issue from Jericho Willis, unfortunately. Not really much we can do with that one. No overtake will be attempted by Pursoon. They're going to go for the DRS straight and then try and have a go. But that's now to 2.6 seconds the gap has gone to. Pursoon's going to try and catch back up. They just seem to have so much pace in that final sector compared to the Aston Martin. Absolutely flying into the first corner. They'll go back to 2.4. Will they be able to find any more at all? I don't quite know, but no, it's not going to be. A bit of a mistake on the exit 2 for Pursoon brings it back to a 0.5, and they've really got to find a bit more if they do want to make any kind of little progress on Charlie. But so far, Charlie has everything in their hands. 2.3 seconds at the moment. I assume they're maintaining it quite nicely, just relaxing at this stage. They've got their championship rival 25 seconds behind the last car, and the last car is Jericho Willis, who's still a ghost car, unfortunately. Doesn't seem as if they can regain control of their car, which is frustrating. I know they have rejoined and left and rejoined again, but they're not really having an easy time. That is our first time penalty runner. That is Tom, who's been overtaken by Verf. Verf has caught up to Frantic. And Frantic has passed Verf. So Frantic to fourth. 3.4 seconds behind Pursoon and Igor, who they were once battling a few laps ago. And now Igor and Pursoon switch once again. And they try to make more progress on the Polish driver, trying to get it to the 0.1s, but it doesn't quite get there. Charlie's still maintaining the gap incredibly well. It's working out absolutely perfectly. Now, Jericho still seems to not be able to have a go. Hopefully Jericho can get back in, but it seems to be they may be bugged and locked out of their seat. 2.5 seconds now. Charlie managed to find a few more tenths later in the lap. Pursoon is going to be looking to try and get the slipstream on Igor and have a go. You can see the Racing Bull just up in front, not too far away. You can also see Frantic in the background. That's Pursoon leaving the session. That is incredibly frustrating. Is Jericho in the seat? No, they are not. We're getting more technical issues on lap 8. It is frustrating, that's for sure. And it means the battles are going to be spread out, but unless we get another one, I'm not entirely sure what we'll be doing here. I'll have a look. Alright. We'll wait for a moment or so and try and hope everything solves itself, but at the moment it's a bit frustrating. Doesn't really make any sense, to be honest. There are no reasons. That's another disconnection. So that does mean we're going to be looking into this, so we'll be back in a second. Alright, unfortunately I think it means we're going to have to do a lobby restart. I do apologise for this inconvenience. We will go through the procedures and check the laps and see what we need to do. Incredibly frustrating, but unfortunately it's just what we've got to deal with. And we'll be back in a few moments' time. Thank you very much for your patience, everyone. Alright everyone, we will be back very shortly. Everybody is just readying up and we'll go racing once again. Here we go again. Ready? Hold! Go! Who's going to get it into turn one for the second time this evening? Simaxon's got a pretty decent start, but it's not going to be enough once again. And the top three will slot in nicely, one behind another. It's going to be Frantic trying to have a go and getting around the outside, or staying in front, I should say, of Tom. They do so nicely. It's Peanuts up to P6, who joins the grid. And we also see Jericho Willis in the McLaren instead. Now, Peanuts is basically in place of Pursoon. That being said, they are on slightly different teams, and Frantic has now moved from Haas to the Alpine car. But now, we're good to go, and this time, Simaxon gets on with it and manages to nicely be in a position with their tyres. They've actually gone for the medium tyre instead of the hards now. They are allowed to do that, and they didn't get the loss of traction off the start. So Simaxon is holding on nicely, and they were probably banking on the fact that Charlie would keep the same strategy despite according to the restart. So yeah, interesting one. Everybody was able to know their starting strategies, and it's the way it goes. Jericho once again is on that hard tyre, the only car on the hard tyre that stays on their strategy. It's Igor looking to have a go on Simaxon, but it's not quite so simple to make a move. And we start lap 2, Simaxon, no DRS. Will they hold on behind their countrymen, or will they go for the move? They will hold on, and we will get a fastest lap for Charlie. The train goes down to the first corner and into the second. Jericho Willis trying to hold on to the DRS with that hard tyre. It would be incredibly difficult to do so. We've got Peanuts, who can't quite hold on to Tom up in front. They're a tenth away or so. Verf wants to try and find a way through, but it's not quite so easy around this circuit with the minimal overtaking opportunities. You've really got to have an advantage if you do want to go for some sort of move. Otherwise, it may not really work out that well. ERS is also incredibly difficult to save around this circuit as well, so that's something that these guys will have to manage. Maybe Verve can get on top of it ahead of Peanuts and have a go. Loss of the front ends there for the Sauber car. They've got to try and keep that under control, but that's now 1.4 seconds that splits these guys. But the top 5 are all in their train, following one another nice and closely. Tom did lose the train earlier on. They've got a second chance here. Frantic gets their second chance, of course, without connection issues. It's a second chance for Simaxon. the only drivers that don't really have a second chance are in exactly the same position, effectively. It's Charlie, Igor, Tom, and Verf. Other than that, everybody had some sort of issue. Now, Samaxon DRS is still not available. Sorry, it is available. And into the first corner, they'll go to the inside line, and that will be the move. Done and dusted. It's Eager Pro who's going to have to do a bit of work to make sure that they don't lose that train. Frantic, in turn, loses out. The DRS cancels itself out in these situations, and all of a sudden, Frantic finds themselves in a suboptimal situation, and marginally with DRS. Will they be able to hold on by the time we get to the next lap? I don't quite know. It's not going to be an easy task. It's not going to be impossible, but with Samaxon really holding on quite nicely, 5 tenths ahead. It's not going to slow any of the cars behind down, and that means that Frantic isn't going to have that much of an easy chance of holding on. That being said, they've had a brilliant move. That's going to be more connection issues as Eager Pro is going to be disconnected from the session. Hopefully we don't get any more disconnections, otherwise we would have to look at something again, but that's incredibly frustrating. We get a restart, we solve an issue, all of a sudden Eagle, who's in the train, is now going to lose it and just be absolutely screwed over. Thank you, F1 24. The new game has been announced and we get this. We get the treatment from the game. It always seems to happen. You get the final bit of the cycle, the final curse, as everything tries to ruin your day, and that's what we're seeing today. I do apologise for all of this. Charlie doesn't really care. They're just hoping that they can go again, but there's a big mistake on the inside line. They got the instability, and then on the exit, they went wide, and Samaxon goes immediately back through. Not worried too much, because they're still within the DRS train, especially now as they've just broken away from the rest of the pack in some very fortunate circumstances for themselves. But it is what it is. Now, I do worry if it's a Steam issue at this point. I do worry if it's a Steam issue, because right now, there is no reason for there to be lobby issues. I'm looking at the connection and we seem absolutely fine. So it doesn't make sense why we would have such problems for Eager Pro. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why we're not having connection issues, but maybe it's Steam and we've just been lucky so far and we could encounter some connection issues very soon. But yeah, Eagle's still not able to catch up, or reconnect, and it's just losing them more and more time in this race. We're just waiting for that. Eager Pro joined the session icon, but it's not coming up. We'll go back to the race leaders as Charlie sits behind Samaxon. Not in a position to safely overtake this time. It wouldn't be viable for them to blast their battery, and they're just going to sit behind this lap and relax. The Ferrari controls the pace. Now, Verf is going to be looking to try and pass the Ghost Car. They have Tom Rob very close behind. Peanuts not too far away either. And the Ghost Car will be passed. Nothing that Eager Pro can do at this stage. I do wonder why they haven't had a reconnect. If it goes on for a few laps or so, then we would have to try and find an opportunity to invite the Serbian driver. Peanuts is going to try and make the overtake, though, as they actually got past Tom Rob there. I don't know if that was a mistake there from Tom, or if Peanuts really just nailed Dunlop. It's quite possible that they just did have a really good corner. Eager Pro is still not having an opportunity to join. If they don't join by the time we get to the start-finish line to start lap 6, then we will invite them to the lobby. Whether that will really have an effect, I don't quite know. But so far, not good. It does now mean Jericho has an opportunity to get back into this race maybe a bit sooner rather than later. If Eagle Pro does join and they can use their medium tyre, it does help the McLaren driver. So that's something that they will be hoping for if Eagle Pro can join. We start the lap and we're not going to see any improvements, so we will have to quickly invite Igor Pro. I do apologise for the delay. Not entirely sure what is going on with Codemasters at this point. We will, in the meantime, go back to the race as we try and sort an issue. Oh, the joys of league racing. It's one of them things that you have to deal with. Unfortunately, Tom has had another issue. That's the front wing end plate loss on either side of their car, so that's down to P8 for them, 9 seconds back. Really frustrating. It is what it is. They'll be able to get back into this at some point, I'm sure, later on. So Maxon is going to lose the lead to Charlie for a moment, as Charlie will take, once again, P1 as from where they started, getting that lovely pole position. Frantic 4.6 seconds behind, not able to do too much about the top two in their DRS train. Peanuts and Verf trying to catch up to the Dutchman. If it wasn't a difficult situation enough as it is, with 8 drivers on the grid and the game cycle coming to an end, making the attendance a little bit lower than usual, this really doesn't help at all. Igor Pro still not able to get into this lobby. We will double check and see. They are in it once again and they're good to go. Okay, I didn't even see that they managed to rejoin. That must have been whilst we were actually pausing, or I was just looking at, I don't know, the Discord to try and find an opportunity. I've clicked the wrong screen, but they're in and we can go once again. Not the best of situations. Of course, it meant that the top 5 train all of a sudden broke away and was completely out of it. Tom has since fallen away from that train, of course, and gone into the pit lane, so it would have dropped apart anyway, but it just wouldn't have maybe dropped apart as soon. Peanuts is within the DRS range of Verf, but not able to go for a move into the first corner. Jericho Willis is hoping these tyres start working better and better, sooner and sooner, and they will be good to go in a couple of moments' time, but it's still not an easy situation for them. Charlie continues to lead the way here in Japan, and although still leading the Grand Prix from when we had the restart earlier on, they're not going to be happy, of course, because it meant that their championship rival has had a second chance at getting back into this race. We never know what would have happened, we'll never find out, but if it was still a similar situation and no safety car came out, then we would have seen a big haul of points gained by Charlie. Could have quite possibly been more than 10 points, and that would be absolutely magical for the Racing Ball driver. Not for the Ferrari, however. The Ferrari does get a second chance, and it's going to be frustrating for some. Very frustrating for Igor, who didn't have any issues. Then the lobby restart occurred, and then we have issues for the Serbians. So, yeah, incredibly frustrating, but it is what it is. It's going to be not an overtaking opportunity for the Ferrari, as they do try and spook maybe Charlie. I'm not entirely sure if that was their intention or not, but Charlie went slightly wider compared to the Ferrari car. No damage for Tom. I think they just had a spin on the exit of the hairpin. Not an easy situation. The hards are definitely hard to get warmed up, no pun intended, around this circuit. So that could have been an explanation for that one. Tom having issues back in Qatar. All of a sudden, their car just darting off into the distance after a bit of a bug. All of a sudden, their screen blacked out and they had no idea where they were pointing. So hopefully they don't have these issues again. They said that they had the issues earlier on today and yesterday. So far, they've stayed in this race. And so we can hope that they've had no more issues. Peanut stays within DRS range of Verf. Not in a position to overtake, however. Verf trying to save some battery. Both of these guys pushing each other quite nicely. The Ferrari has a more difficult situation regarding battery, but it could work out. Verf is trying to put the pressure on Frantic. I think these two maybe have encountered each other before in F1.5. They definitely did last weekend, of course, for a few moments. And I say last weekend. Not last weekend, the weekend before. Hungary, the Hungarian Grand Prix. That's when it was. And they also have quite possibly encountered each other last season as well. Not too much, but the championship contender in last season is now going to be possibly met by the current championship contender in this season for the F1.5 title. Both racing as reserves. Peanuts does lose DRS range in the meantime. So now Verf trying to really push nicely to have an opportunity at going for P3. That would be their best result in LSI F1, which would be absolutely incredible. So far, Verf's best result has been a P7 back in Saudi Arabia and joining that in Silverstone. So that would be an absolutely awesome result to get that one done. A podium would be great. Still, they have to try and find their way through on Frantic. Regardless of if they get a P3 or P4, it would still be a massive improvement compared to their previous results. Maybe slightly helped by the fact that Egapro, who was incredibly quick in the race trim, it seemed, is going to be down the order, but they are trying to make progress. 2.8 seconds. We're going to get Samaxon into the pit lane. We're going to get Charlie staying out. It's going to be the hard tyres regardless. There is no question of that one. And there is the Ferrari. There is a safety car, and that is an absolutely crazy one. Samaxon is going to get a bit of an undercut and will take the lead. It's not going to make a massive difference in the championship order. It's going to bring everyone back into it. We're going to see Igor go into the pit lane immediately. Tom will stay out most likely. Now, Igor is going to have one lap older tyres compared to the cars around them. So there's a slight disadvantage on that. But other than that, it's okay. Now, Charlie gets connection issues as well. Alright. That's frustrating. Okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to have a think. We'll be back in a few moments. I do apologise everybody for this.